The ultimate recipe to mastering bagels. I present to you the bagel. We're gonna start off with the dough. And in this video, I'll be doing a double recipe, but it works with any recipe. So first, you're gonna add 4 cups of water into a stand mixer or your dough mixer. Then you can add 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. Next, you will add 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Then you can mix that all together in the stand mixer with the whisk. After, you will let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes just so the yeast can activate. And when you see foam on the top, that's when you know it's ready. And now we can start by adding the flour. And this recipe takes about 8.5 to 9 cups. It really depends. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes a little less. And you can add all of that into the mixer right now. And now we can move on to the salt. We will be adding 1.5 tablespoons of salt to the mixer. And I know some people usually mix separate salt with the flour, but for this purpose, it's not that important. We can just mix the salt in on top. Then you will add your dough hook and then start on low so the salt and the flour can mix and it can slowly incorporate. And after it's mostly incorporated, you can turn up the speed so the dough can start kneading itself and it can start coming together into a ball. And at this point, this is where sometimes it is a little bit stickier for some people, or it is a little dry. So you can add 1 tablespoon of water or 1 tablespoon of flour if yours is a little sticky or dry. Mine was still a little bit sticky, so I just added another tablespoon or 2 of flour, and it helped take off the sides. The point for bagels, it's really important that the dough is not too sticky, because when it comes to forming them, it will be really hard and it won't come together as easily. So you have to make sure it's a rough and shaggy but still soft dough, and that's really important here. So we're gonna let it knead for at least another 5 minutes, so we'll help the dough come together in a ball. And like I said, it has to end up kind of a rough, a little bit dry, shaggy dough, but it still must be soft. And now we can take it off out of the stand mixer. Just take off your hook and then put your dough on the counter. And this is where I scoop my dough onto the counter so I can just reform it and place into another bowl. Make sure you get a greased bowl. Put some oil or some oil spray around your bowl so it helps without sticking, so the dough doesn't stick. And then you can get your dough on the counter. They can shape it a little bit and then place it into the bowl so it can go into its resting stage. It's really important the dough for bagels does rest, because this is part of how we get a fluffy, soft texture of the dough. Now we're done making the dough, we'll move on to the next step, which is shaping. And now we can move on to the next step, which is shaping the bagels. So after about an hour or an hour and a half rest, or the dough doubles its size, you can take it out, punch it down just to release the air, and take it out of the bowl and put it onto the counter. And you can also sprinkle a little flour onto the counter just so it doesn't stick. But usually the dough is a little more dry, so it doesn't stick in general. And now we will go on to measuring them out and then shaping. So I like to do my dough. They're about the New York size, so they're a little bigger. These ones are gonna be 150 to 160 grams of dough for the bigger size, and some people do smaller size, which is 130 to 140 grams. But I do like a bigger size because it's good for making sandwiches and other things, so I like to do that. And now when you weighed all your dough, it will will approximately make 8 per recipe, so since this is double, it'll be around 16, but it really depends on how many grams, because the extra couple of grams between 150 to 160 could change how many bagels you are making. So now you put it aside, and we'll get it ready for shaping them into the actual bagels. So you can grab one of them, and then you can start rolling it out so it's flat and perfect on the table. You can move it around just to help stretch it out more, and so you can make sure there's no overlapping or there's no like wedging or bumps. So and if it is a little sticky, you can add some flour just in case. And when you get to here, you can stretch it out a little bit more so it's kind of in that rectangle, and then you can kind of on one of the sides you can choose to kind of push it down just so you can have a little thing to help fold it in, and then you will roll it up, and when you get to that little wedge part, you can pinch it so it closes and make sure it won't open. Then you will start rolling it up so you can close that little wedge, and so we can stretch out the bagel so it'll be a perfect size. And when you get to here, you can get the rolling pin, and you will roll one of the sides so you can close off into the bagel shape. You see, as I'm doing here, you close it off, you roll it up, and you put it into the thing, and now it's kind of covering a little bit. You roll it up, open it, and you put the other side on the dough, and you grab both of the sides you did and pinch it over so you're overlapping and closing it. So this is how you shape the bagels, and now we'll move on to the next step, which is boiling. And now the next step is boiling the bagels. So you can grab any size pot, and you will fill it to the top with water. Now, as it's filling up, we'll be adding brown sugar and baking soda, and this will help with the smooth and chewy texture of the bagel. We'll add 1 tablespoon of brown sugar and about a tablespoon of baking soda. It didn't really work for me, so you'll put about a tablespoon inside. And now when it's about to this much water, you can turn it off the water, and then you put a lid on, and you can turn on the stove so the water will come to a low simmer or even a low boil. And now when it's at a low simmer or low boil, you'll take off the lid, and we'll start boiling the bagels. So you can put, this size fits around 2 bagels, so you'll put your bagels face down 2 at a time, and it will need to be 30 seconds to a minute on each side, and then you will flip and then do another 30 to 1 minute on the other side. And boiling helps with the chewiness of the bagel and the smooth texture that we get, the smooth and shiny texture that we get on a bagel. And this is really important because bagels are known for their chewy and smooth texture, and this is how it's made. And we'll see here now we're flipping it over onto the other side, and we will wait another 30 seconds to a minute. And now after 30 seconds passed, you'll take them off and put it onto the tray. You can shake off the excess water. And now we will season the bagels, and you can repeat the boiling with all the other bagels until your tray is full. And you can preheat your oven to 450 while you're making the boiling the rest of the bagels, and you can sprinkle directly your seasonings on, and I chose everything and sesame seeds, and you can just repeat this with the rest of your bagels until they're all done. And now we finished the boiling stage. And now we'll move on to the baking stage. So when your oven's preheated to 450, you can place them on. I usually do it on a stone, but for this purpose I don't. The stone does help get a crispier bottom, and that's really good. So you can bake it for 20 minutes and then flip it halfway, and then you take it out, and your bagels are perfect. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned how to make the most delicious bagels. So share this and comment, subscribe and like, and thanks for watching. See you guys again next time.